Hi everybody, it's Andy here again with another one of my instructional videos. This time it's all about how to create informative and impressive looking graphs based on the data in your student application spreadsheet. And this goes towards criteria P4 of the unit. Now, if you haven't already watched my video about how to create a basic graph, which is on the Padlet, do so now, because I'm not going to cover that in this video. This is just about the kind of graphs you should be creating for the student application spreadsheet. So I've opened the spreadsheet here on the navigation page, which was the subject of one of my previous videos. I can see that we've got the buttons themselves to navigate around the spreadsheet, the exit button, and most importantly these explanations here. You have to explain about the macros to show you understand about how they work and how you created them and what their role is in the spreadsheet. The same with the exit button, including explaining the code down there as well. Anyway, that was a previous video, so I'm not going to talk about that. This one's about graphs. Now, you have to create at least 3 graphs. Show that you can use a variety of graph types to suit the data which is in the spreadsheet. All your graphs should be informative, not obviously done just for the sake of meeting a criterion. They should be useful to the user. They should all have suitable titles and axes labels. They should be impressive looking as well. Excel can help you make your graphs look very impressive as well as very useful. One of them must be something called a comparative graph. I'll show you one of those in a second. And you have to add an explanation. You have to include an explanation of each graph and its purpose, that is, how it would be useful to the college. So I'll show you what Tommy did, whose spreadsheet this is from last year. If I skip to his students' worksheet using the button here, you can see he's got one graph, a pie chart. Pie charts are very useful for showing proportion, where you need to show the proportion that some piece of data has compared to the whole. In this case, this one is for student enrollment status. You can see if I click on it, it's based on this data here, which a pie chart's perfect for this because it shows the proportion of students that are enrolled compared to the whole, and the proportion of students that are not enrolled compared to the whole there. And notice it's a good-looking graph. He's used some of the built-in features for changing the appearance of the graph to make it look good. So it looks good. It's very informative. It's useful. It looks good and it's well labelled, and it's got a good title to it as well. And his explanation is down here of this graph. It's not enough just to produce a graph at level 3 for this P4 criteria. Not just any graph will do. It must be useful, and you have to prove that by putting a text box near to it here with an explanation of what the graph shows and why you feel it'd be useful to the college, useful as an addition to this student application spreadsheet. So you can see Tommy here has said, this pie chart shows the difference between the enrolled students and the students who haven't been enrolled. That much is clear, but then he goes on to describe why that would be useful. This chart can be used by teachers to see who will and who might not appear in their lessons. So that's a very useful graph. It looks good, it's informative, and it's got a good title, and it's well labelled. Here we can see what the slices mean. Let's skip now to Tommy's, get back to home there, Tommy's enrolment worksheet. You see here there's another graph, and let's put it through the test here now of these 3 things that all graphs should be. First of all, it should be informative. There's no point doing a graph which doesn't improve the understandability of the data in some way. It's very clear from this one. Again, he's used a pie graph. It's very clear what the proportion of students, male and female, are. You can look at it straight away. You can see the figures here, but pie charts are great for showing proportion of things. You can just see from the slices there what proportion are male and what proportion are female. You can see that it's overwhelmingly male, really. So run it through the checklist again. It's informative, not just there for the sake of meeting a criterion. It's got suitable title and axis labels. It's impressive looking. Again, he's used some of the graph design features from the gallery here. You can work your way through these. There's a lot of things that Excel can do to improve the way a graph looks. Just put that back how it was there. It's got suitable title. It's got suitable axes labels. or they're not really axes with a pie chart, but the sections, the slices are labelled there as male and female. And this is very important to meet P4, not just creating the graph, not just creating a useful graph, not just creating a nice looking graph, but you have to explain what the graph is doing, and particularly the purpose, why it would be useful to somebody using this spreadsheet. So you can see here he's put, this chart shows the ratio between male and female students. Pretty obvious, but it's worth proving to the reader of the explanation here that you understand what the graph is showing. But this is the important bit, the purpose. This table tells us that there are more males than females. This could make teachers try and encourage more girls to join the college. It's only at that point that it becomes more of the level that we're after. If you just say something like, this chart shows the ratio between male and female students so that users of the spreadsheet can know the ratio of male and female students. That's just what I call a circular explanation or a circular argument. You have to push that outside of that circle and explain why the graph would be useful to try and encourage more girls to join the college. The teachers would be once aware of the gender split here. Teachers can then use that information to try and encourage more girls to join the college to get it more sort of 50-50. So a nice graph. Let's just check it one more time against the checklist there, which is that it's informative. Yep, it's good looking. It's very impressive looking. And it's got suitable title and axes labels, and it's got an explanation nearby which explains what the graph is showing and the purpose, the useful purpose. So a couple of pie charts there that I've shown you first of all, but if I skip to the funding worksheet here, you'll see he's covered the criteria that you have to do more than one type of graph. So let's work our way through a few of these. Remember the funding worksheet? This is the one that shows the course code, the course name, and then the financial situation of each course, the basic course funding they get per student, the number of attendees, basic funding, extra funding, which remember was that fiendish if statement, and then the total funding. So quite a complicated worksheet this. And this is probably the sheet that gives you the best chance to create some really good graphs here. So if I zoom in here on this first graph, he's now using bar charts. You have to do at least 3 charts and a variety of charts. So at least some pie charts and some bar charts as well. So here's a nice chart here. Number of students per course. You can see when I click on it, it shows the data in the spreadsheets that it's based on. It's a graph of the course name against the number of attendees. So you can quite quickly see from it which courses have recruited well and which haven't. Let's run it through the checklist. It should be useful. It should be correctly labelled and see the axes labels here. Now we're onto bar charts. We can see some axes labels. It's got a good title. It's impressive looking. Again, he hasn't changed many of the default properties of this graph, but maybe you could go to use a bit more of your imagination there. And finally, it's got an explanation nearby, what the chart is, and the usefulness of it. This chart could be used to try and encourage more people to take the courses that are low in students. It could also be used to see which classes should have the most support. So these, for example, art and design, enterprise, they need, maybe even cancelling the course or some sort of push to get more students before the course starts. So again, that one meets all of the criteria there that we're trying to meet with these graphs. Just before I come to the comparative graph, I can see there's another pie chart over here. This time a bit more complex. If I click on the chart and then zoom out, you can see the information that it's based on. When you click on the course, the information within the worksheet, within the data there that it's based on, light up. And this is course name against total funding. Pie chart this time, again, very good for showing proportion. So you can see which courses, proportionate to all the others, have the greatest total funding. And straight away, performing arts jumps out. Health and care jumps out. And the ones with least, these very small slices here, like independent living. So remember, pie chart's very good for showing proportion. Again, it looks good. It's got a box nearby which tells us what it's doing and shows that the person that made this chart didn't just do it to meet criteria. They really know what they're doing, which is important at level 3. Now you have to do at least 3 charts, a variety of types. One of the 3, at least one of them, must be what's called a comparative chart. That's basically a chart where the items on the horizontal axis, in this case the course title, you're comparing the items on the x-axis against more than one thing on the y-axis. So for example here, compare this to the number of students per course graph above it. In the course funding graph, we've got courses along the bottom, a little bit like the number of students per course, but each course has got 3 bars, 3 columns above it, because for each course you can not just see the number of attendees like you can with this graph here. You can see 3 things per course on the same graph. That's what's meant by a comparative graph. You've got course funding in blue, basic funding in red, and total funding in green, all on the same graph there. So there's basically more information. You get more value for money from this graph because there's more information being shown on it. And again, check it against the criteria. So it's not just been done for the sake of it. It is very informative. In the explanation, we'll show that in a second. It's got a suitable title and axes labels. It's impressive looking, and it's got its explanation here. This chart shows the comparative data of the funding course for each class, each course I think he means there. We can use this chart to compare the courses funding, basic funding and total funding of each class. I think he could have gone a bit further with the explanation of that one, because he's really describing what it does. That's not the same as describing its purpose. How would this be useful, really? So again, a good example of a comparative graph, very nice looking there, but I think you will need to do better with the explanation there. So here's a slide just to remind you, a bit of a checklist here to run all your graphs through to make sure you've met all the criteria and you're going to get P4. You must create at least 3 graphs. You must use a variety of graphs, but the graph you choose should suit the data. So if you're trying to show proportion, then a pie chart is good. So use a variety of graph types. And here's the little checklist then to run each graph through. All graphs should be informative, useful, not obviously done just for the sake of meeting a criterion. They should have suitable title and axis labels. Impressive looking too. There's a lot of features in Excel that can help you to do that. One must be a comparative graph, and this is very important. You must explain each graph and its purpose, how it would be useful to the college, and make sure it's not a circular explanation where you're just saying this graph shows the proportion of males and female students on the course so that you can see the proportion of male and female students on the course. You need to push out of that circle and come up with a reason why that graph would be useful to somebody using it. Okay, so you now need to go ahead and create your own graphs. Now, as always with these videos, and with any video that I produce, you can have a look at it again, you can rewind it, you can pause it, go and have a go. And when you've done that, if you've done all the things that I've described in this video, your spreadsheet will then be complete. So well done on that. If you've still got plenty of time then before the deadline for this assignment, you should then make a start on the merit criteria, but you must leave yourself plenty of time to do that. There's no point leaving yourself a couple of hours to do the merit criteria. They won't be good enough to meet the criteria if you do that. Okay, so thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. So good luck with the graphs.